From a pressing perspective, one should also consider whether one wants to use whole bunches or destemmed bunches. From this point of view, the choice might be in certain cases dictated by the rulebook, the production rulebook or specs. The fact of using whole bunches can be a disadvantage in part because of the release of bitterness and herbaceous components contained in the stem. However, the pressing conditions that are adopted to vinify, to press a base wine for a sparkling wine that provide for a softer pressing will make it possible to avoid the transfer of the bitter and herbaceous components. The fact of using whole grapes also makes it possible that the solids in the grapes, the pomace, can also act as a filter, thus influencing the turbidity of the various fractions of the must. Let's now focus onto certain parameters that are fundamental for the vinification of base wines. First of all, the pH and soluble solids. The must, which is obtained at the beginning of the pressing operations, contains more acids and a lower concentration in terms of salts, especially potassium. As a consequence, we will manage to achieve a level of acidity that can be maintained over time.
Another parameter that should be considered in addition to pH is the presence of SO2. SO2 de facto disappears a few hours after fermentation started. The fact of adding SO2 might lead to an increase in the solubility of polyphenols and therefore a higher extraction of polyphenols themselves. The lower the pressure which is applied during pressure, the lower the extraction of the phenolic component, which performs an important role. On the one hand, for the stability of wine produced, and on the other, for the perception of volatile compounds, in addition to the bitterness and astringency. If you consider different pressures, you see that, as a matter of fact, the phenolic compounds that are most impacted by stronger applied pressure are caffeic acid, catechin, and epicatechin, which perform as hydroxycinnamic acids, which perform a very important role, and especially caffeic acid is linked to the instability and oxidation element. In order to support producers at best, recently a fingerprinting method was proposed in order to obtain a snapshot of our juices obtained during the pressing phase. We see that progressively pressure increases, and when that happens, you have an elongation of the wavelengths which are related to the presence of phenols and hydroxycinnamic acids, particularly when the raw material, the grapes that we are pressing, is Pinot Noir. As pressing continues, you have also a higher extraction of anthocyanins. This has an impact on color. In the case of white vinification of Pinot Noir, this is not desirable. There is then the color index aspect. Color is actually the first parameter that makes it possible to ascertain the oxidation condition of a must or wine. If you consider OD at 420 nanometers, with the progression of pressing, you have an increase of adsorbents, and at 420 nanometers, that is lower in the free run and the first fraction, which means